Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to another Adobe XD Masterclass. My name is Howard Pinsky, and my computer's screaming at me right now. I'll turn my sound off. Hope you're all doing well. Let me know who you are, where you're tuning in from. Welcome to Behance. I love these sessions, these longer, hour-long sessions where we can dive into Adobe XD. We can have some fun. And if you are tuning in on Twitter or YouTube, head on over to behance.net/live/Adobe Live, and I'll be there watching chat, answering questions. We're here for an hour. You are stuck with me for an entire hour. So I hope you're all doing well. Sit back, relax, grab some coffee. If I didn't introduce myself, my name's Howard Pinsky. I'm a senior XD evangelist here at Adobe. And who do we have in the chat today? Tim says, "What if I don't know who I am?" Tim, I believe that. I really do believe that. Marissa's here. It's 2 p.m. in Austin. We've got Kevin and Ryan and the zombie army, the entire zombie army. 807 is here. Welcome. Akin, hopefully I pronounced that correctly. I'm usually terrible with names. It's either Akin or Atkins, probably one of the two. Sienna and Iona and Phil and Anna and Jack. Welcome, everyone. Victor, nice to have you all. Abdullah, hey, how's it going? Another Anna? 2 Annas. Oh boy. All right, wonder if we're gonna have Elon Musk in the chat like last week. It's always fun. Richard, welcome everyone. All right, so what do we have planned for today? Let me hop over to my screen. Here we go. And here's my Twitter. If you're not following me on Twitter, definitely follow me on Twitter, twitter.com/Pinsky. And we are gonna be creating a landing page today. And here's kind of what we're gonna be doing. We're gonna be doing a lot more than just this, but we're gonna have some fun. We're gonna build out a nice long landing page filled with information. We might add some animation, some really super cute illustrations that I grabbed from Adobe stock, some wavy images and text and things like that. We're gonna be talking about components. We're gonna be talking about assets, the whole 9 yards, right? Doesn't matter. Second one is more accurate, though it doesn't matter, as I said. Okay. So Akin, I think it was Akin, the second one. I'll run with that. Hey, Kara, welcome. Thank you, Tim, for posing. Jack says, I forgot about Elon in the chat last time. Indeed. He never private messaged me, so I'm assuming it was not Elon Musk. All right, so what are we going to be doing today? Let's hop over to Adobe XD. Thank you, Richard. Awesome haircut. Thank you. I'm all nicely fresh and shaven and got my turtleneck on. I'm ready to go, ready to design. I just don't feel like a designer unless I'm wearing a turtleneck. Hey, Lee, welcome. And again, if anyone's just joining on Twitter or on YouTube, head on over to behance.net/live/Adobe Live. I am there talking with the fancy people in there, as Abdullah says, fancy indeed. So what are we gonna be doing? Here we go. Here's Adobe XD. We're gonna start from scratch. We're gonna have a lot of fun with this. And again, if you have questions throughout this hour-long stream, throw them in the chat. I will be watching. What we're gonna do, we're gonna start with an artboard. Like most projects, we just start fresh. So I'm going to start with a 1920 by 1080 artboard. Of course, there's many web sizes you can start with. You can start with iPad, iPhone, whatever it might be. But we're going to go big. We're going to go 1920 by 1080, and I'm going to make this window quite a bit bigger. Zoom into my artboard, and we are going to get going. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to start just by blocking in some elements. We're going to block in a nice curvy image and mask at the top. We're going to add in that lovely little jungle boy that's swinging from the vine, add some links, and then we're going to start kind of building down this artboard. Sienna says, oh no, I missed the turtleneck memo. I know. You still have time. Go get a turtleneck. We're going to be here for an hour. Everyone needs to wear a turtleneck. I'm going to be hosting Adobe Live in a few weeks, I think, and it's gonna be turtlenecks all day, every day. All right, so here we go. We're gonna start with a nice curvy thing at the top. I don't know what you wanna call it. Curvy thing, curvy image, curvy mask, whatever it might be. I'm gonna grab my rectangle. And most designs start off with a rectangle, at least in my experience. I'm gonna draw one out just somewhere like right about here. And this is looking pretty sharp. We probably don't want all these super sharp edges. So what we're gonna do, Lee says, Turtleneck Friday, it's a band name. I think so. Hey, Selva, welcome. So we need to start creating some curves on this rectangle. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna double click on this rectangle, and this is gonna convert this into a path. Now, if I bring up my layers panel over to the left, I did that with Command or Control Y. We now have a path over here. And now at this point, if I were to undo, I get my rectangle back. But once I start manipulating this path, it's all gone. that rectangle cannot be converted back. Ryan says rectangle and pop-ins. I think so. Although I'm probably not going to use pop-ins once today. I'm going to try. I'm a little bit addicted to pop-ins. I'm admitting I have a problem, but we're gonna run with it. So here we go. I'm going to double click. I've got my path, and now I can start adding some points. So I might want to add a point somewhere right around here. And I can also always double click. Ooh, look at that. Look at that lovely line and curve. I can double click on this one to create another point, and I can just start moving these around until I have a really nice looking curvy line box rectangle thing at the top. I can double click on this one again and just kind of bring these around, and I can move these little handles. Ooh, look at that. Look at these curves. Isn't that nice? There's something about like a curved rectangle and image mask at the top of a landing page that's just so inviting. So I'm just gonna, work on this. I do have an hour, so I can just sit here and just work on these curvy lines for probably a good half an hour or so. But I might want to pull this in a little bit, just kind of work on this. Let me know in the chat if you are, if you also kind of, are into these curvy lines and things like that. But you're noticing as I'm just pulling on, it's almost like sculpting. You're just kind of pulling and pushing on these handles and points. Cara says, what, no pop-ins? Maybe I'll just sneak it in there, maybe, just to kind of get my fix for the day. But look at that, that looks pretty good. I'm gonna maybe move this up just a little bit so it kind of pushes off the artboard. But now all of a sudden, we've got this really nice looking curvy shape at the top, which I'm going to go ahead and make sure to mask. I'll just name this, I don't know, curvy shape thing. I don't recommend weird layer names like this unless you really know what you're looking at, especially if you're going to be handing this stuff off to developers. Try to name things properly, but I'm feeling fun today. And by the way, if you hear any dogs in the background, I'm on dog duty today and he's not very happy. So Eric says, I'm into everything Howard does. Thank you. Sienna says, I refer to them as my rectangle blobs. See, I like that. I like blobs. Blobs is a good word. All right, so we've got this curvy shape thing at the top. Thank you, Jesse. Curvy shape thing, best name ever. I agree. All right, so we've got this. Of course, we need an image to pop into this curvy shape thing. That's going to be an official term, by the way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hop over to Finder, and I've got some images here. I've got some cute illustrations folder, and I did grab some images from Adobe Stock, and we're going to be seeing a few more. Lee says, now we got to see the dog. If he ventures over here, I don't know where he is. He's probably by my door waiting for my wife and daughter to get home. But I've got this image. I'm just going to simply pop it directly into XD, into that shape. And what's great about XD, if you've never used it before, dog and turtleneck, I agree. Hey, Karen, welcome. Is that any shape, any mask can be used to pop images in, which is really cool. I can double click on this if I wanted to move this around and adjust it. I can scale it up a little bit. That way I've got these nice vines kind of as the focus of this image. There we go, that's looking pretty good. And of course you can always, even after the image has been popped in, if you double click on the edge of the shape, you can still, there we go, double click, you can still have access to those lines. So I can just go in and make a few adjustments if I wanted to make it a little bit more curvy, just like that. That looks pretty good. All right, let me just make a few extra changes up here at the top. Double click on the curve, move that up a little bit, just so I have a little bit more space to move this down if I wanted to. Perfect. All right, so we've got this lovely curve in the background. Now, I keep catching myself. I just want to make a few more changes. Maybe move this up just a little bit. There we go, just so it's not too drastic at the top. All right, Steven, that's slick. Thank you, thank you. So we've got this lovely curve, and maybe just to add a little bit of depth, we might want an additional curve in the background, but very subtle. We don't want to go too crazy with this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate my curvy shape thing, Command and Control D, and now I have two over here. And I might want to just maybe name this shadow. And what I can do is on the bottom one, I'm just going to move this over a little bit. Now it looks very similar. One, because the curve is exactly the same as the one on top, and two, the image is filled. So what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to grab my fill color over to the right in the properties inspector, as you can see there, and just change it. And noticing it just cuts out that image, gets rid of it, and replaces it with whatever color that I'm using. So I'm going to go for something like this. Again, I just want something very, very subtle, and I may want to just drop the opacity Again, very subtle. It's there, it just adds a little bit of depth, but it's not too bad. Lee says, I'm concerned that masks will increase load time for a site. They shouldn't. If you save this as a transparent PNG, or if it's part of a larger image in the background, you can save it as a JPEG, and it should be no different than any other image. Of course, transparent images are sometimes a little bit larger, so if you get creative with it and save it as a JPEG and reduce the quality just a little bit, and for something like this, because it's an illustration, if you do drop the quality a touch, you're probably not going to notice it, because those pixels will kind of look like it's part of the illustration. So you can kind of get creative with it. So we've got this lovely shadow in the background. It might be difficult to see on your monitor, but I'm gonna double click on it just so I have access to this path again. And I might just wanna make a few changes just so it's not exactly the same. So I might wanna pull that up, you know, push that around a little bit. Again, just so it's not the same as the shape in the foreground. We just wanna add a little bit of variation, just like that. And there we go. That's looking pretty good. Looking fancy. Not great, but not bad, right? That's the motto of life. Not great, but not bad. And I can probably, you know, tweak this for hours and hours and hours, but I don't want to waste your time. So I'll just kind of make a few additional adjustments, pull this down a little bit. There we go. Move this out. Perfect. All right. You're welcome for that clarification. So we've got this shape, this curvy shape in the background. We've also got, looks like the audio is out of sync. Oh no, the audio is out of, is it just Tim, or, because Tim could be trolling me. But let me know in, my stream looks okay on my end. No, it looks like it might be slightly out of sync. I don't know. Let me know in the chat if my audio is slightly out of sync. If it is, I apologize. It does look like it's okay on my end, but YouTube is not okay. So I apologize. And how much out of sync are we talking about? Like just a tiny bit? Lee says I can see and hear it. Let me know if my audio, my voice matches with my mouth. But I'm gonna continue. And maybe YouTube will fix itself over time. Who knows? Stream is okay. Out of sync here. It's a little out of sync. Oh no. Smudge off. I don't think I can change it. I don't think I can fix that. I think I can do that. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what's about to happen, but I'm gonna try to do something. And let's see. Oh, there's my dog. See, my dog's angry that that my stream is out of sync. Just a little bit. Hey, my dog is not very happy. All right, so hopefully I did make a change. Hopefully that fixed it. I'm not sure, but most likely it is a YouTube issue, so there's probably not much I can do. But I did make a change, and we'll see what happens. So we've got this curvy shape thing at the top, and what I'm going to do now is we might want a little bit of text. We might want some navigation links at the top. So zooming on in here, I might also want to make this a little bit bigger. So I'm going to grab both of those, just pull this up a little bit. There we go. And right up here, we might want some links. So I'm gonna grab my text tool, just like this, and let's go ahead and type out, let's say, animals. Now, of course, this is kind of difficult to see, right? Not very good. So I'm gonna make this a little bit larger. And let's see, what font? I know I want to avoid Poppins, so I'm not going to use Poppins. I'm thinking maybe Proxima Nova, Sophia Pro is pretty good, Avenir Next is always fun. Let me know in the chat what font you're kind of into right now. But I think what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to go with Proxima Nova. And I might want to go with a little bit of a condensed version. And while I'm doing this, let me go ahead and change the color to white. And let me know, let's see how things are looking on the stream. Things are okay, I think. It didn't fix it, but keep going. Okay, I will keep going, Tim. So we're gonna go with probably a Proxima Nova. Maybe, let's go for Proxima Nova, Proxima Soft Condensed. That way there's just a little bit of a playful feel. Joshua says Roboto. Leica says Circular, Avenir, Sophia. All right. Well, let's go. I'm going to bump this up to, let's say, a semi-bold. That looks okay. And maybe increase the size just a touch more, maybe 32 pixels, somewhere around there. Akin says Sophia Pro, thanks to Andrea. Yeah, Sophia's a good font. Rift is also a pretty good font. I may use Rift at some point throughout this. But let's go for animals. And maybe we might want to go for habitats, right? And then maybe a donate button. And then since this could be like a children's illustration, that sort of thing, we might want to go for a buy button. but you're probably noticing you can't really see the buy button over here. I want to get a little bit fancy with this. So for this particular link, I'm going to sample a blue. And maybe this one I want extra bold because I want this one to really stand out. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to place the buy button somewhere right about here. And then if I select all these other links, I can use the distribute horizontally button right at the top. Boop, there we go. And that will allow them to space out really evenly. And if I wanted to, I can just pull on this and responsive resize does its thing, making sure everything resizes really nicely. And I can always press distribute horizontally just to really make sure that that spacing in between those links is nice and even. Perfect, that's looking pretty good. And I might want to just grab these, group them, and just type out navigation. Great. Now, below this, we might want some text to really kind of tell viewers and the users or whoever's browsing this website what this whole thing is all about. So with the text tool again, I'm going to type out, let's say, swing into the jungle. Maybe this is the name of the book or whatever it might be, right? So for this one, I'm going to probably stick with Proxima Soft Condensed. I'm going to start with a medium. I'm going to really bump up the size of this text because this is going to be the H1 of this website. So we want to make sure it's nice and large, but I might want it to really stand out. We're going to go for an uppercase. So we're going to, convert all the letters into uppercase with this button right over here. And then maybe to kind of emphasize the jungle, right? I'm going to double click on the jungle and then change this to, let's say, an extra bold. What does that look like? That looks okay. Not too bad. Now, what I might also want to do is, because we've got this kind of curvy line back here, which I should probably leave it alone, but I might want to make a few additional, just little tiny tweaks to this and the shadow as well. I should probably leave this alone, but I'm just going to do that, right? I might want to kind of offset the upper text from the lower text. So I'm simply going to just dive in here, maybe move this over a touch. That way it kind of molds to that curve in the background, which looks pretty good. All right, beautiful. I can also adjust the line spacing if I needed to, right? Just bring that up. That looks okay. Beautiful. Swing into the jungle. There we go. All right, so what else do we need on this landing page? Well, we might need some additional text. We might need, a little bit of a description of what exactly this is. So I'm going to grab my text tool, and instead of simply clicking to create point text, I'm going to click and drag to create area text. And maybe for this one, I'm going to drop the size quite a bit. And let's go ahead and type out your favorite animals from around the world. Now, obviously, we have a little bit of a problem here. We have missing text. The line spacing's way too big. Hey, Sanjeev from Toronto, or Sanjeev. And then I'm going to drop the line height. Oops, I'm pressing the wrong button. There we go. And I probably don't want it as bold as the text, so I'm going to drop the weight. Let's go for medium. Let's see what that looks like. That doesn't look too bad. I'm going to make sure to line this up. And I might want to drop either the opacity of this overall layer just like this, or I can go ahead and sample one of the lighter colors from the image on the left, just so everything kind of fits in that aesthetic. Now, as I'm building this, I may want to make sure that I'm saving some of these colors and character styles to my assets panel, not only so I can quickly access them, but so I can also update them very easily later on. So I'm going to hop over to my assets panel right down here at the bottom. And here's the assets panel. Looks very boring and lonely right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to grab, let's say, this text here, press the plus button beside character styles. I can also press the plus button beside colors, and I can continue this process just to add all these lovely things. I can add character style here, and it adds all that stuff directly into my assets panel. And of course, I can rename these if I wanted to. I can rearrange them so they all make sense. For now, I'll let them be, but maybe later, a little bit later on, I will work on some organization. All right, so we've got landing page looking okay. It's looking pretty good, but it's missing something. It's missing our lovely jungle boy, right? So for that, I'm gonna hop into my Creative Cloud libraries, right over here, OpenCC libraries. And the reason I'm doing that is because I downloaded this image from Adobe Stock, but I first brought it into Photoshop just so I can extract it from the background and kind of get a nice transparent feel to it. So I'm gonna grab him, drag him in. He's obviously way too large, so I wanna make sure to reduce him in size just quite a bit. And you're noticing probably if you have never used CC Libraries before, there's a link icon at the top left. It's a green link icon, so it's not like a linked asset, but it is linked to your CC Libraries. What's cool about this is that if I need to make changes to the design of this, I can always edit it back in Photoshop. So if I go back to my CC Libraries, I can right click, go to edit, it's gonna bring up Photoshop, I can make changes, I can save it, and it's gonna sync to Adobe XD, which is super cool. Now, I obviously, he's kind of looking the wrong way. I don't know where he's going, but I wanna flip that over. So over here in my Properties Inspector, I can just press on the Flip Horizontally button right here, boop, there we go, boop. There's the boop graphic, hopefully. Like I was saying, when will XD have the feature to remove background from images? Honestly, I don't see that happening anytime soon. That's definitely something that's a little bit more advanced in terms of image editing, and that's what applications like Photoshop are for. When you start adding very large features like image editing and content-aware layout or content-aware fill and or image selection tools like that, then the application starts to become very bloated. So we're probably going to avoid that, at least at the moment, but who knows about the future. I mean, it could happen. I hope it happens, but it's a pretty big feature. We're definitely going to be focusing on UI and UX features, at least for the moment. There we go. So we've got our little jungle boy. He's kind of swinging into this this screen. Things are looking pretty fancy. I may want to just maybe grab these text layers, make them a little bit larger, just like that. I can grab and go into my area text. Make that a little bit larger as well. There we go. Things are looking pretty good. How are things looking? Let me know in the chat. Selva is asking, what about animation? If we do have some time at the end, I may animate this guy. If I hop back over to Chrome, this is kind of what it looked like. Whee! There it goes. So we may do something like that, right? Glad I stumbled upon these tutorials. I have XD in my subscription and never had downloaded it. Yeah, these are great sessions. We also have the daily challenges. If you missed that with Andrea, we have another set of daily challenges coming up starting on Tuesday. So definitely stick around for that as well. All right, so we've got sort of the top end of our landing page created, but of course we need a lot more content. We need to show off additional animals. We might want to get into components and that sort of thing. So what I want to do is I want to extend this artboard downward. So I'm going to go ahead and select the entire artboard and just grab the handle right at the bottom and just pull it down. I'm going to pull it down pretty far because I know that I'm going to be adding quite a few more animals. So there we go. So we now have a much larger artboard. We may also want to introduce a little bit of color to the background. Right now it's very white. We might want just a little bit of maybe green in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the entire artboard, and then over to the right in our appearance, I'm going to click on fill. I'm going to change from a solid color to a linear gradient, and maybe at the top, so the bottom's going to be white. Maybe at the top we're just going to add a little bit of green. So I'm going to just sample this color down here. Now this is probably too much, so I'm going to drop it quite a bit. Now I may just want it kind of at the top. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to hop back into the linear gradient. I'm going to grab the handle right at the bottom, because basically it's saying go from color 1 to color 2 down the entire artboard. I may just want a little bit at the top, so I'm going to just drag this right up to the top, just like this. Maybe it'll just fill the viewport height like that, and I can make some very small tweaks. There we go, to the color. Just so again, it's very subtle, but there is just a little bit of color, which just looks pretty nice, right? Now, when I did extend that artboard downwards, I'm just checking comments. Perfect. All right, so when I did extend that artboard downwards, you may have noticed that we got this little handle over here to the left, and that's our viewport height. And that's essentially telling you that anything above this handle is going to be visible when you preview your artboard, and anything below is going to be visible on scroll. So if I did go ahead and preview this at the top, you can see we have this lovely landing page at the top, and then if I scroll down, we can see all this white void at the bottom, which of course we have to fill. So what I'm going to do is we're going to fill this. Now let's go ahead and start blocking in some elements, and then we're going to add some additional animals, we're going to add some additional text and that sort of thing. So I'm going to grab, instead of my rectangle this time, I'm going to grab an ellipse. I know, very crazy, but I'm going to grab an ellipse, draw one out. Doesn't have to be a perfect circle because we are going to modify this quite a bit. and I'm going to pop it there. I'm going to just change the color just for now. I'll just set it at red. And just to kind of match the aesthetic of the rest of the landing page, this curvy shape thing at the top, as we were calling it, I'm going to double click on this ellipse, and now I have access to our path. And I can just do something like this, just to kind of pull this inwards, and now I have this really nice looking curve, right? Nothing too crazy. I probably don't want to go too crazy with this because a lot of this will be visible and you don't want it distracting people when they're scrolling down the page. So I'm going to leave it somewhere right about there. I'll just move it off the artboard just a little bit to kind of give a little bit of depth to this page. And now that we have this, we have two options in terms of the color. We could go ahead and, grab the fill and change it to a color, let's say orange or something like that. We could also use various gradients, but I also have some images I might want to throw into this. So I'm going to hop back over to Finder. I've got some watercolor images, again, that I grabbed from Adobe Stock, and I think this is going to look great. It's going to add a little bit of texture to this page, and it also reduces the need to add some gradients. So I'm going to grab this, drag it into XD, and now we have this nice looking gradiented texture watercolor thing going on our page. And again, just like with the image at the top, I can double click, make this a little bit larger, and that's looking pretty good. Perfect. All right. So now that we've got this, let me go back over to my assets. I'm going to name this Curvy Circle. You know what? Curvy Circle Thing. We're going to run with the thing. There we go. And I'm also going to make sure to group all of these elements at the top as well. I group this, call this Jungle Boy. Make sure it's behind the navigation links. There we go. Perfect. All right. Things are looking pretty good. Of course, we need some additional animals. And, even though this is jungle themed, I'm just going to go with a bunch of cute animals, even though they may not necessarily live in a jungle. I've got this really cute panda I might want to add onto this design. So I'm going to just drag him into XD, him or her. I don't know how to tell the difference. Make this a little bit smaller, just like that, and move it down, right? And I am making sure, I'm deliberately keeping the circle kind of poking above the viewport height. That way it kind of tells people who are landing on this page that there might be something below. So, maybe they should start scrolling down. Of course, you can use arrows to kind of point downwards. You can use copy, like scroll down or something like that. But I've noticed that, something like this, if you just kind of have it poking up, then it kind of incentivizes them to scroll down a little bit. I'm just going to mess with the size a little bit. There we go. It looks pretty good. And what I might want to do throughout this process, just to kind of keep an eye on how things are looking, is just preview it. So again, we've got this lovely image at the top with this curvy shape thing. We've got our text, and again, we've got a little bit of that circle at the bottom poking out, which hopefully tells people that you can kind of scroll down and you can see the panda, which is super cool. Now, next we might want some additional text, and to help with this process, I can just grab some of this text at the top, copy it onto my clipboard, and paste. That way I can use it down here. Now, of course, looking at this, if we just kind of ignore what's at the top, this doesn't necessarily work, right? And Selva's asking or saying, change the color yellow. Which color? Let me know which color you're talking about. So what we might want to do for this is, maybe this is what Selva's talking about, is change the color to yellow so it kind of matches the aesthetic of this shape. So like each section will have its own color. So I'm going to grab my fill and choose a color. That looks pretty good. And let's go ahead and type out Panda Bear. Maybe I'll have it on two separate lines. And I might want to right justify it so it kind of links up or matches with the panda and the curvy shape thing on the right. And maybe I'm going to dive in here, just get a little bit creative. I'm going to set this to maybe bold or even extra bold. And maybe this one will be, let's go for regular. And I might even want to drop the opacity a touch just to really get fancy, maybe around 50%. That looks pretty good. And I'm going to just bring up the line height just a little bit. There we go. All right. Now, what I want from you, all of you in the chat, let me know something about a panda. I don't know much about pandas, but let me know something about a panda that I can write in this little description, which I'm going to right justify. And while you are, maybe get a little bit funny with it. While you're all doing that, I'm going to work on a button, because we might want a button to kind of learn more information about a panda. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my rectangle, make sure everything's kind of lined up with the right, and just drag out a button like this. I want it nice and large so people can see it, because you have to remember, like, this could be made for kids, and kids, their eyesight isn't the best, so they might want a nice large button. I'm going to round it out quite a bit. And for the color on this particular button, I could go ahead and sample this yellow, and it looks pretty good, but I might want to get a little bit more playful with it and have a little bit of a gradient. So I'm going to go back into fill, and I'm going to set a linear gradient, and the top color is going to be this light color on this background, and the bottom color is going to be this one. And it looks pretty good. It doesn't look too... When you're dealing with small elements like buttons, you don't want to go too crazy with the gradients, because then you have something that looks like this. It probably doesn't work. So you just want to go very subtle. It's there, but it's not there, right? Let's see. Richard says they love to climb, eat, and sleep. A panda walks into a bar. He eats, shoots, and leaves. Joshua. Okay. I have to go with that, because it works. It's just, it works. There we go. Well done, Joshua. Well done. Now, while you're all probably giggling at Joshua's panda pun, the next animal is probably going to be some sort of a bird or parrot. So keep that in the back of your mind. Think about that. And when we get there, I will need another pun or some sort of fun fact about that. But well done, Joshua. Well done. All right, so we've got now the Panda Bear title. We've got this lovely pun, which I'm just going to make sure to fix the grammar a little bit. Perfect. And we have a button, but of course we need some text on this button. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to grab my text tool, and I'll just type out learn more, just like that. And for this, I might want it to be all caps. I'm going to change the color to white. So we can stick with Proxima Nova probably, but we can probably increase the size a little bit. We can probably make all the letters capitalized. I might want to also increase the weight a touch, maybe to bold. Bold or semi-bold? I don't know. Semi-bold, possibly. Drop it down just a little bit. How does that look? Looks okay, I think. I can also, maybe just for Tim, I can go for Rift. And Rift has a soft version of the typeface. And that looks okay. That's looking pretty good. Now, while we're kind of discussing buttons, let's talk about components. Let's talk about content-aware layout, which is one of the newer features in Adobe XD, which one of my favorite things ever. And, you know, we first might want to save this button so we can use it throughout the project. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure to select the text layer. I'm going to hold down Shift, click on the background layer, and I can also do that in my layers panel over here to the left. And then I can press the plus button, either in the properties inspector, or if I hop over to my assets panel, I can press the plus button over here as well. And you're going to notice it pops it right there. I can just name this button, just like that. Now, there are many benefits to components. Of course, you can just drag additional ones out. You can edit the style across all of them. But one of the newer features or benefits of components and also groups is the ability to turn on padding. So I'm going to turn this on. I'm just going to activate content-aware layout. And what XD did is it now looked at the relationship between the uppermost layers, which in this case is the text layer, and the background layer, which is the layer right at the back, and it automatically added padding. And I can hold down my tilde key. I can see all the padding around here. I can push and pull this if I needed to. But the big benefit is I can just dive in here and learn more about pandas. Now that's a little bit too long, and I also spelled it incorrectly. But what you're noticing is that button magically adjusted as I edited that text, which is super cool. But you know what, we're gonna stick with learn more right now. Maybe for additional buttons, we might make them a little bit larger or smaller, whatever it might be. You can also add elements in there. So if you wanted, let's say, I don't know, an icon of some sort, you can put that in there and the button will just automatically resize, which is really nice. All right, so we've got Panda Bear, we've got this amazing pun. A panda walks into a bar, he eats, shoots, and leaves. Amazing. I'm gonna move this up a little bit, and there we go. So we've got that. Let's take a look at how things are looking. I'm gonna press play, you can scroll down. We've got Panda Bear. The sizing looks pretty good. It's not overwhelming, which looks pretty nice. There we go. All right. So the next one we might want to add is for like a bird, a parrot of some sort. So I'm going to duplicate this shape over here, and I might also want to group all this. So I'm going to just Command and Control G and panda. And for this one, I'm going to double click, maybe make a few additional adjustments. Nothing too crazy again. Pop this over here. And for this one, Steven says, gotta go. Thank you so much for these videos. You're welcome, Steven. And thanks for hanging out. If you do want to watch this later, it will be uploaded on YouTube immediately after. Hopefully the audio fixes itself. If not, I apologize. But thanks for hanging out. So I'm gonna hop back over to Finder. I've got some additional images of watercolor. I'm gonna drag this red one in. That looks pretty good. I'm not sure exactly where I'm gonna space it right now, but we will see as time goes on. And for this one, I'm going to go back into my CC libraries, grab this lovely angry looking parrot, whatever this might be, and flip it. I'm just gonna flip it horizontally just like that. Boop, there we go. And place him somewhere right about there. Now again, I might want to see how this is looking as someone's gonna scroll down the page. So I'm gonna press the play button. There's the panda. And there's a little bit of the parrot down below. That looks pretty good. I might want to just move this up just a little bit more, just so that when someone does get to the panda section, they definitely see that there is something else down below, and they can continue scrolling and see the parrot. In terms of the sizing, that actually looks pretty good. I want to make sure that all the animals are approximately the same size, just so that, they're equal. You don't have one that's larger. Of course, in real life, the parrot would probably be like this, right? But you don't want that when someone's scrolling down the page, right? Now, with that done, I can dive in here. I can select all this information. I can simply copy it and then paste it. And you know what? You might as well do it. If you've got the information there, you might as well copy, you might as well paste, make your life much easier. So now that we've got this, again, I need some puns or some interesting information about this parrot. I think this is a parrot. I don't know. I'm not good with birds. But I'm going to call this parrot. I think that's how to spell parrot, and bird. Even though it's not really called a parrot bird, we are going to run with it. And I'm going to set the fill to, let's say, this red color. That looks pretty good. And just to kind of match what we had up top, I'm going to drop the opacity of this to about 50%. I'm going to right justify it. There we go. Right justify all this stuff. And I'm also going to change the styling of this button, again, just to match the red that we have going on. So I'm going to open up my gradient. Let's go for a nice red color, light red right about here. And we might want a bit of a darker red. That looks pretty good. All right. Parrots are among the most intelligent birds. They might be. I'm going to put that in there just for now. And if I get something more fun, we will run with it. And make sure it's left justified. And there we go. Now I want to make sure this is not capitalized. There we go. Perfect. Parrot bird. Now let's preview. And I'm previewing just by holding down Command or Control and pressing return. That parrot does look mad. I don't know what its deal is, but it does look a little bit mad. It's looking pretty good. What do you guys think? Think it's good? I think so. All right, so parrot's done. Change the color panda to parrot. I could change colors, but I'm gonna run with it right now. So we are short on time. I'm gonna make sure to group all these. Perfect, all right. Now, the next one we might wanna do, let me go ahead and actually make this artboard a little bit longer. It's a pretty big artboard. But for this one, we can actually just duplicate this I can duplicate this entire thing up here, right? Just like that. Again, we're gonna have a little bit of peeking out. Scroll down, there's our parrot. Got a little bit of that information down at the bottom, and then we have another animal. Of course, we need an animal, right? So what animal are we going to use? Well, if I hop back over to my CC libraries, we do have some additional animals, and we've got an elephant. Boop, there we go. Now, we're noticing a problem, right? Because I dragged that elephant essentially into an existing shape that's masked very specifically, it keeps that mask. So we probably don't want that in that case. So I'm gonna undo, drag the little elephant in here. I'm gonna keep the panda for now, just as a reference as to what size we're gonna go for. And just make sure that that looks pretty good right about there. I'm gonna flip it horizontally. Beautiful, now I can delete our lovely panda. I'm sorry, Panda, but we're going to delete you. Boop. Goodbye. Now this is an elephant. I don't know what to put after it. So maybe for this one, it'll just be a one-line thing. Pop elephant there. We'll sample a little bit of a darker blue for that. You might want to go a little bit darker, just like that, just so that it's a little bit easier to read, especially for those who don't have the best eyesight. And then I need some information about elephants. So let me know in the chat again, what's something interesting about elephants? And while you're doing that, I will update this color. Let's go for a little bit more of a desaturated look in this case. It's a little bit too much, maybe a little bit darker. I'll drop this as well. There we go. That's looking pretty good. It's looking okay. It kind of clashes with this text at the top. So let me do some additional work on this because I'm not loving it just yet. That's looking a little bit better. And then what I might want to do is kind of use that color to determine what the color of the header is going to be. So I can just grab the elephant text layer and just sample one of these colors, maybe the bottom color. That looks pretty good. All right. Elephants are the largest land mammal. It is, isn't it? It's a pretty big mammal. So I'm going to copy that from Anna and just paste it in there. Make sure this is right justified. I'm going to capitalize the E, and there we go. I'm going to make sure to also add a period at the end of this. Boop. Oops, I missed it. Boop. And just to make sure I'm consistent, perfect. All right, things are looking good. Of course, we might need to change the color of this yellow background layer. So back over to Finder. Where is Finder? Here we go. I've got this one. I've also got this one over here. Both of them might look pretty good against that elephant. But I'm going to drag it into here and pop it into place. That looks okay. I can also double click, move it around a little bit, just to kind of see, I don't know. It'll make it a little bit larger too. It looks all right. Not too shabby. Just move some of this stuff around. There we go. And because I did copy it from above, from the Panda layer, I just want to make sure I'm naming this elephant. Beautiful. All right, so one more time, let's go ahead and preview this, see what things are looking like. We've got our Jungle Boy at the top, scrolling down, Panda. We've got our parrot, and we've got our elephant. Things are looking pretty good. But of course, there might be a few more things we might want to do before we maybe start adding an additional. Victor says his tail's cut off a little bit. It is. I could move it inwards a little bit. I think we do have a little bit of room to do that. I was thinking to purposely kind of leave it off the edge of the artboard just so that it kind of matches the rest, but let's see what it looks like. It could work. It could work. It looks a little bit strange over here, but we can always tweak that later. So what we might want to do, hey Marnir, welcome. What we might want to do now is get a little bit creative with some animation. And I thought about whether or not to do this, but because it does take up two different artboards, but we're gonna do it. We're gonna animate this little Jungle Boy at the top. Now, what you're gonna notice if I dive in here, first of all, I might want to grab him. Actually, no, I can leave him there. You're gonna notice if I rotate this, right? It rotates from the center. At the moment, XE doesn't have anchor points. Maybe that'll come in the future, but it does rotate from the center. So it's gonna be a little bit difficult if we wanted him to kind of come from the side to rotate inwards. So in that case, we can kind of trick XD. We can kind of use a workaround. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab an ellipse. I'm gonna create an ellipse out here, and I'm gonna move the ellipse all the way up here. And you're probably asking, why are you doing that? Essentially, Richard's saying, are you adding a footer? We may add a footer if we do have time. But we have about 10 minutes left. So essentially what I'm gonna do now is fake an anchor point by adding an element all the way up there. So what I'm gonna do, I have this ellipse up here. I wanna make sure to grab the Jungle Boy image as well. So I've got both of them selected in my layers panel. I'm gonna name this Anchor. Anchor. Did I spell that right? Maybe. And I'm going to name this Jungle Boy. And I want to make sure to group both of these together. So Command and Control G, and I can name this boy. And now what I'm doing, now you're gonna notice, we've got a little bit of an anchor point. And Jack says, oh, I see what you're doing. That's a neat trick. Again, it's a little bit of a workaround until anchor points are available in XD, but you can kind of fake it. It's not perfect, but you can also, grab this and move it around if you wanted to really get specific, right? I'm gonna pop it back over there. So what we're gonna do now is we want to essentially define the starting point and the ending point. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna grab this artboard and duplicate it, Command and Control D, and now we have 2 of them. Now this over here to the left is going to be the starting point. So I'm gonna grab the boy group, the one that we just added that little anchor point in there, and just kind of shift it off the artboard. I can also move this over, right? Just like that. Perfect. And I don't know exactly how this is going to look. It may look a little bit strange. We may have to do some tweaking, but let's see what happens. So what we're gonna do now, we're gonna go into prototype mode, and I'm gonna select the entire artboard because essentially I want this animation to kick off when the artboard or when the web page loads. So I'm gonna select the entire artboard, grab this little blue handle, drag it over to the second artboard, and then in the properties, I wanna make sure that I have time selected. And it's good to note that the time trigger is only available on an artboard level, not an individual object level. So keep that in mind. So I've got that. I may also want a little bit of a delay so it doesn't kick off immediately. Gives you a second to kind of look at the page and then the animation will kick off. And in terms of the action, we don't want to transition because what's going to happen is that it's going to simply dissolve or cut to the second artboard. We actually want that animation. So I'm going to go to auto animate. Joshua, with that fake anchor, Howard just asked David Blaine, hey, you want to see some magic? I think so. I think I did. So we auto animate, and if you're brand new to XD, essentially what auto animate does is it looks at the differences between these 2 artboards and it's going to animate those changes. So it's good to note that you have to keep your layer names and your group names the same, and in some cases even the stack position. So we've got that going on. Now in terms of the easing, I might want to go for a snap because this will, when he swings into view, he'll kind of like nicely settle into place. So I'm going to go for snap, and duration, let's go for 3 seconds. We want it fairly long. It might be a little bit too long, but we'll see what happens. So with that, let's go ahead and press play and take a look. Woo! Fancy. It's not too bad. Let me see that one more time. And there's our little jungle boy. And then of course we can scroll down and continuing seeing more information. Looks good. So what we might want to do now is kind of going back to design, maybe add one more animal down at the bottom, maybe a hippo of some sort. So I'm going to duplicate this layer here. Again, leaving a little bit of room at the top to kind of poke into the viewport. And this is going to be, let me hop into my CC libraries. And I've got this lovely little hippo I can drag in here. So fun, Anna says. I agree. It is fun. And this is definitely one of the more fun designs that I've done. Usually they're kind of very serious, but this is playful. This is like a kid's sort of landing page of some sort. I'm gonna pop the hippo in here, delete our parrot. I think this is a hippo, right? Yeah, it's probably a hippo. Maybe, I don't know. Hippo. It's probably no additional text needed, and I need a fun pun or some interesting information about a hippo. Lee says, you can do so much in XD, you can. And hopefully one day, of course I can't speak for the product team, but hopefully one day we'll be able to do an animation like this on a single artboard. Of course, with components, you can sort of do that with a tap trigger, but not with time. So maybe in the future, you might be able to do that. Just so you don't have these 2 massive artboards. But with components, you've already, things like hover and little animations, micro animations, things like that. You've already reduced the amount of artboards that you're using drastically. So, in the future, you never know. So we've got this hippo now. We might need a background layer. Let me hop back over to Finder. Drag this image in here. There we go. That looks pretty good. And maybe for this, if I grab this text, that's not too bad actually. That's not bad. I was thinking that, this might be a little bit too difficult to read, and it probably is. But the darker yellow or whatever color you might want to call this isn't too bad. Let me zoom in here, make sure the button is kind of updated. I'll grab a color from here. That's kind of fun. It's a nice little gradient, but it doesn't really match the rest of our design. And I'll just drop this a touch. There we go. All right, do we have any hippo? Hippos can hold their breath for 3 to 5 minutes. If I tried that, I'd probably die. But thank you, Lee, for that. And I'm gonna paste that in here. Make sure to put a period at the end. Beautiful. All right, Richard says, and videos and GIFs to XD. Yeah, I would like that too. I know the team has been exploring that. It's always tricky when you're talking about GIFs and videos because those are usually pretty large in file size, and there's the potential, especially for a desktop application, to weigh it down and reduce performance, and that we definitely don't want to do that. So here we go. We've got hippo. Let me make sure to move the hippo inwards a little bit. Make sure to move the text. That looks pretty good. All right, let's see how things are looking. So we've got this going on. You can scroll down. Panda bear. We've got our parrot. We've got our elephant. And we've got our hippo. There we go. And of course, we've got puns and interesting facts from all of you in the chat. Really do appreciate that. Now, Richard did mention that maybe at the bottom, we can have some sort of footer. Or maybe in this case, because this is a children's book, right? There's a link at the top to purchase. So what we could do is, I'm gonna grab my rectangle tool and draw something out just like this, right? Change the color just to whatever for now. And just to kind of match the aesthetic of everything else, let me zoom in here. I'm gonna double click, add a point, double click on that point, and then I can just maybe make a little bit of a curve. I can double click on here, kind of bring that in or out, double click, there we go. So we've got a nice little curvy thing at the bottom, just to kind of match the aesthetic of the rest of our design. And I could go back over to Finder, grab the same image, drag it in here, just so it matches, kind of full circle, right? Makes it a little bit larger. And I might want to grab one of my buttons, drag this into here. I can change the fill. Let's go for a white button. You know what? I'm gonna just go for solid color. White button, make this a little bit larger. Oh, I can't make it larger because I have padding on. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to change this color to, let's say, one of these greens. That looks pretty good. Buy now. And I could make this larger just like this, right? Bam, there we go. So you've got this button here in the middle of our, probably needs a little bit of work, but we're gonna run with it. And I might want to, I can always just grab, let's say this text, paste it here, change the color to white, and maybe I'll center this, get rid of that weirdness going on. There we go. And how much would a book like this be? If you were gonna buy this book, right? How much would you pay for something like this? So maybe underneath here, we'll just write, I don't know, $14.99. Is that what books cost these days? I haven't bought a book in a while. But I'll pop that here, maybe increase the weight a little bit. Let's say Lee says, did the padding increase proportionally? It should have. Anna says $30. That seems expensive for a book. But you know what? Let's run with $30. There we go. Beautiful. Make sure this is centered in the middle of our artboard. Beautiful. $30. I'll pop right about there. The buy now button. There we go. What else do we need on a footer? Is that pretty much it? That might be it. Let's see how things are looking. So we're gonna press play one more. You know what? Let's press play from the first artboard. Whee! Our little guy swings into view. We can scroll down. We've got our lovely panda. We've got our parrot, which I probably don't need bird. It's probably obvious that it's a bird, but you know what? We're gonna run with that. We've got our lovely elephant, largest land mammals. We've got our hippo, and then down below to finish things off, we've got our footer where you can actually purchase this book. And you know, maybe at some point I'll get creative and see what happens when you press on learn more. Does it take you to another page? Does it pop up a little modal with some more information? Does this whole area transform? I don't know. I guess we'll find out. But that is going to just about do it for me. So thank you, everyone. Let me press get back to my face. There we go. And I do now see the audio is a little bit off. I'm gonna figure out why that happened. Hopefully it's a fairly quick fix. I don't know. We'll see. But thank you everyone for joining me. If you aren't following me, definitely follow me on all the places. I'm on Twitter, I'm on YouTube, I'm on Dribbble, everywhere. And this will be up on YouTube immediately after this stream. But thanks again, everyone. And I'm going to be back next. Am I going to be back? Yes, I will be back next Friday with another masterclass and probably more content coming your way very soon. So thanks again, everyone. And I'll see you all next time.